Welcome to Whiskey and RPGs. My name is Solomon SK, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of MMO and RPG News Roundup. We got a lot of news to cover. Hope you guys got your glasses ready with your beverage of choice, and let's cover the news together. Cheers to you guys. So I know many of you will remember NieR Automata that came out a few years ago, I believe, and in my opinion, it was a really great game. It was able to mesh together elements of RPGs and hack and slash gameplay together really well, but then again, this is Square Enix we're talking about. And the first bit of news comes from MMOculture.com. NieR Reincarnation, first mobile RPG in NieR series announced. It goes on to read, in celebration of the 10th anniversary of the NieR video game, which launched in 2010, Square Enix recently announced the first mobile game in the series, NieR Reincarnation. There is not much info available other than the game is free-to-play mobile RPG with in-app purchase functions. And as you can see, I got the trailer playing right up above me, and admittedly, it looks really nice. It looks really amazing, even if it is for a mobile title. And if you've been watching the series for a while, you guys know that I'm not a huge fan of mobile games, although I don't have really anything against them per se. So it doesn't really mean that the game won't necessarily be bad, but it's just really not my cup of tea in terms of platforms. But continuing on with the NieR related news, there's an quote-unquote upgraded NieR Replicant coming to the PC, PS4, and Xbox One later this year. And this is brought to you by GamesRadar.com. It goes on to read, Square Enix revealed NieR Replicant, a quote-unquote upgraded version of the original game, which is coming to PC, PS4, and Xbox One later this year. It's expected to release later on in NieR's 10th anniversary year with new voice work, a re-recorded score, new characters, plus some new bonus tracks from composer Keiichi Okabe. I believe that's how you say his name. I do apologize if it's not. New endings may also be available as well, although that hasn't been confirmed yet. And if you check out NieR's official Twitter handle, as you can see here, they've made the official announcement with the trailer linked in as well. And going back to talking about the mobile version of the game, the article did say it's being developed by Applebot, I believe that's how you say the name, and sports characters designed, led by Psy Designation. Now, I never heard of any of these companies or artists, but either way, I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I will cover more NieR news as they start rolling out. And the next bit of news comes from allchart.com. Elden Ring, new details about lore, setting, open world, narrative, and quests. And I will admit, I kind of went a little highlighting heavy with this one. But it goes on to read, reliable insider Omni has shared a new Elden Ring lore post over at Reset Era, revealing a ton of new details about the game's setting, open world, characters, narrative, and quests, among other things. Ever since the official reveal at E3 2019, From Software have been pretty quiet about their upcoming action RPG Elden Ring. We know that Elden Ring is From Software's biggest project yet, with Game of Thrones writer George R.R. Martin working on the game with Hidetaka Miyazaki, and I believe that's how you say his name. I apologize if it's not. It goes on to say, Omni claims that George R.R. Martin actually did not write the narrative for the game. Instead, he wrote the backstory and world history of Elden Ring and is collaborating with Miyazaki and From Software on the world itself. Miyazaki handled the narrative instead, and Martin's writings are used as world history. There is no hardline rules on how they had to adapt his writings, and they are free to interpret them as they see fit and create based on that, as Omni explained. It's also important to note that various races and characters will also be in the game. Important inhabitants of the world aren't just humans or non-humans, although you as a player character will be. But on top of this, on their journey, players will meet more engaging and believable characters with stories that span across the game's world in terms of location and story progression with their own motives and personal ambitions. I would argue that From Software actually has some of the better world development, I guess you could say. But this is definitely panning out to be very RPG-like, but I guess no surprise there. Remember Pickle Pea and Pumple Rum, everyone. Next, they talk about Elden Ring's lore and setting. Elden Ring is a fundamental force of the world, Omni explains, and while its loss hasn't literally wiped all life off the face of the planet, it had a number of more exciting, fantastical effects on the world. Try to imagine what happens when the land without the people, and what happens when the Elden Ring barrier comes down, and quote, the worst and unimaginable things, end quote, keeps coming to our world. And lastly, world and regions. Players will get to wade through this world in turmoil and witness the conflicts amongst races across great distances, which do not take place in just a single land like previous games, but multiple regions with their own unique qualities, characteristics, visuals, and recognizable inhabitants. But again, like always, even if this Omni person is reputable, always take these things with a grain of salt. Things could change, or maybe this could all be a bunch of fabrication, but as somebody who is a fan of RPGs, I'm definitely looking forward to this next title from Software. No, wait, I'm sorry, that would be next title from Software. And really quick, I just wanted to cover some, I guess, positive news. Especially with what's going on these days around the world. Sticking with GamesRadar.com, Animal Crossing New Horizons, players are celebrating birthdays and weddings in game. Now, some of you might find this a little weird, but if you've been playing MMOs for as long as I have, it's not that weird really. So anyways, reading on Animal Crossing New Horizons, players are holding celebrations and recreating weddings in-game to make up for canceled plans as the result of the sickness that I can't mention. On Reddit, user Ash Mush posted a picture of the wedding ceremony their fiance surprised them with after they had to cancel their plans. And this is her speaking, graduating from med school and not getting a graduation, and our wedding was canceled. But she did post a picture. My fiance and I had to cancel our upcoming wedding due to the thing here, so our best friends gave us a small Animal Crossing wedding instead. Now, the article does go on to list a bunch of other special events for people who, say, missed their birthday parties with their loved ones, or they had to cancel a trip and whatnot. And the reason why I wanted to cover this was because even 10 years ago, I would argue that generally it was sort of taboo or kind of even looked weird upon others who didn't really understand what really goes on with online games, especially with MMORPGs. But now with virtual realities becoming a thing and more people being connected, you know, I see movies like Ready Player One, and I definitely could see how that could be a thing in our future. But in any event, I still think it's pretty amazing that people out there can still connect with each other through the internet regardless of the circumstances. This next news is brought to you by MassivelyOP.com. I won't be spending too much time on it, but just know Star Citizen Studio Cloud Imperium just picked up another 17.25 million from investors. Looks like Star Citizen and Squadron 42 company Cloud Imperium just got a bit more rope as investor groups have brought up more shares worth 17.25 million in additional funds. Now, I'm not going to say whether this is a good or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I mean, more money to develop the game, why not? But it also gets a little convoluted just because it's also a crowdfunded game as well. So I'm pretty sure there's pros and cons of having a product that has both, maybe. I don't know. I'm not really much of a gaming developer or gaming businessman or anything like that, but oh boy, there you have it. And heading on over to MMORPG.com, RuneScape receives a new skill today, Archaeology, for the first time in years. It goes on to read, you'll journey on an adventure across 5 massive new locations to unearth mysteries that will reveal secrets from Gailenor's rich history. I believe that's how you say it. According to the accompanying press release, Archaeology is available up to level 24 free-to-play players and arrives with a level cap of 120. You'll excavate and restore artifacts using their gathering talents, while the discovery of ancient relics will unlock powerful game-wide perks. You'll also uncover ancient training methods for new powers, ancient summoning, and ancient invention. The launch of this new skill also teases the highly anticipated Elder God Wars dungeon, which will see the titans that created the world rise up again, coming later this year. And heading back over to massivelyop.com, this next game is definitely a game that I would like to give its own episode, but Starborne talks up its new map and new win conditions ahead of open beta. It goes on to read, with days until its open beta, Starborne is wrapping up to let people know about its form of online MMORTS gameplay. Solid Clouds discussed the game's updated map as well as going in depth on its new win conditions. The first win condition is a good old-fashioned military conquest, which will primarily take place in the center of the map with victory points for players to capture and fight over. This specific area will be locked for the first 6 weeks of each 10-week round to allow players to build up and amass their forces. That actually kind of reminds me of Age of Empires 3 multiplayer. I know some people would set up a no rush 20 minutes, just so you could build up your army from whatever country or empire you used. So it kind of reminds me of that. The second win condition revolves around industry, with its penultimate goal being the creator of the Dyson Sphere. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Dyson Sphere is a big, gigantic structure that encompasses an entire star and just develops energy from the star itself. And finally, the domain win condition will focus on players expanding their personal territory to the largest size possible. Lastly, you can join the open beta yourself on April 2nd. And of course, the game looks absolutely amazing, admittedly, but I couldn't help but to feel there was some sort of Sins of a Solar Empire influence in this game as well. As some of you may know, that is an RTS that came out, I want to say about 8 years ago, maybe longer than that. I'm not sure. Absolutely had a blast playing that game. But that game too had various win conditions as well, as you went out and conquered different planets and set up your vast empire. So heading on over to MMORPG.com, upcoming time traveling RPG, the Waylanders, shares companions. Now, I don't know too much of this RPG, unfortunately, but I wanted to cover it here at least, just to put it on the radar. And it goes on to read, time traveling RPG The Waylanders is headed to Steam Early Access in 2020. The team shared information on the list of companions, and it lists the companions and a lot of the names I can't even pronounce, so I'm not going to even try. But do know that each companion brings their own unique character to the game, allowing you to romance and travel with them. And speaking of another game that I never heard about, we go on over to massivelyop.com. Bloodlines of Prima is a free-to-play PvP/PvE open world hero shooter MMORPG. It's a long title. Even though the author of this article, Chris Neal, admits that the headline for this one sounds like the game tossed all of the MMO sub-genres into a blender and rolled it up. Developer/publisher Amazatrophic, I believe that's how you say it, appears to have a balance of elements to make things less chaotic than the headline seems to make. It goes on to read, Bloodlines of Prima lets players either capture PvP points or take on threats around the game's world, with either activity rewarding premium currency. Heroes in the game are customizable with hundreds of abilities to choose from and a variety of equipment to find, with treasure vaults scattered around the land. Players can also transmute unwanted items together so no items will go to waste. And lastly, quote, the servers are designed for 400 plus players online at once. In order to really fill our server, it was a necessary change, explains the announcement. So as you can see, I got the trailer playing right up above me, and admittedly, it does look a little rough around the edges, a little crude, a little primitive, to say the least, but I wouldn't be surprised if this company was being put together by 1 or 2, maybe even 3 people. And heading on over to MMORPG.com, World of Warcraft survey asks about Classic Burning Crusade character creation. And I know this is definitely huge news, especially if you're somebody who's been playing Classic a lot. But it does go on to read that a recent World of Warcraft survey asks about Classic Burning Crusade character creation. The survey was sent out to players in a tweet, and it had 5 options. Number 1, continue playing my current classic character on my existing server as it progresses to the Burning Crusade expansion, with the option to transfer to a classic server that will never progress past level 60. Number 2, start a brand new character from level 58 on a Burning Crusade server. Number 3, start a brand new character from level 1 on a Burning Crusade server. Number 4, continue playing with my current classic character on my existing server that will never progress past level 60, with the option to transfer to a Burning Crusade server. And lastly, number 5, none of the above. So it looks like Blizzard is playing around with what to do next with their classic servers, and this is something that we touched upon a little bit in our MMO and RPG podcast, to which I will have the link in the little tags above. And just really quick, I wanted to let you know that I did implement a smaller segment here within the MMO and RPG News Roundup called PSAs. And these are basically just really quick news about various content updates, early access, and patches for various MMORPGs and other online games, as well as news of, say, free beta keys or even game keys as well. And I know a lot of times you will see free games for limited time from, say, Steam or the Epic Game Launcher as well. So that's what this part is about. And the first PSA is brought to you by MassivelyOP.com. Star Trek Online expands its First Contact Day starting April 2nd. Now, I'm not a huge Trek fan, so I don't know anything about its specific lore and whatnot, and so I thought it'd be pretty interesting to learn that within the Star Trek universe, the First Contact Day is April 4th, 2063, and this is the year humans made contact with an alien race. But starting on April 2nd for PC players and April 9th for console players, as part of the in-universe holiday tracking Dr. Coach Reigns. I'm gonna say Coach Reigns. I almost said it in another way. I'm not I'm not sure if that's right. Anyways, this doctor's first flight in the Phoenix and the subsequent first contact between humans and Vulcans. And from Gematsu.com, Minecraft Dungeons launches May 26th. Minecraft Dungeons will launch for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on May 26th. Publisher Microsoft and developer Mojang announced. And if you actually head on over to MassivelyOP.com, grab a key for Shadow Arena's final beta, courtesy of Pearl Abyss and Massively OP. It goes on to read, those who participate in the Shadow Arena beta testing will receive in-game loot, including the highest grade sealed items, a matchlock, and Red Dragon offering. As of recording, there are still just under 5,000 keys left. And when you get a key, you could also apply it to your Steam account as well. But just do know that the beta doesn't begin until April 17th. And from MMORPG.com, Elder Scrolls Online Greymoor Prologue quest now available for free. The Elder Scrolls Online Greymoor Prologue is now available for free, accompanied by a sweet new trailer. As you can see, I have some of it playing right at the top, but it goes on to read, this prologue quest coincides with the free play event running from April 1st until April 13th. This means that anyone who downloads ESO during this time can play the Greymoor prologue for free. From Gematsu.com, roguelike dungeon crawler Pangeon, I believe that's how you say it, now available for PC, coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch in 2020. And again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, so I do apologize. Goes on to read, publishers Ultimate Games and Gaming Factory and developer Scrupulous, I think that's how you say it, have released retro-style roguelike dungeon crawler Pangeon for PC via Steam, as well as announced that it will launch for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch before the end of 2020. And this one's really interesting, as you can see here in the screenshot and some of the footage that I have playing right up above me. Definitely has that early retro style, like Doom, Hexen, Duke Nukem sort of graphics and qualities, which is really cool. So And from MassivelyOP.com, Final Fantasy XI kicks off the new beginnings of early spring campaigns on April 11th. It goes on to read, starting on April 11th with the rollout of the New Beginnings early spring campaigns, it also offers players a variety of extra gugas, I think that's how you say it, for taking on challenges and even higher drop rates on seals and crests used to unlock high-end battlefields. The drop rates for those increase the more players you have in your party as well, up to a maximum of 6 per individual drop. And super quick from MMORPG.com, Conan Exiles, bonus XP event continuing until April 3rd. And Everquest II Bristlebane's Day event returns, and this is sort of their, I guess, gesture or April Fool's event. The event runs until April 9th, where you'll be able to visit the Enchanted Lands for some tricks and pranks. And I bet you'd never see a news article from Defiance, but here it is. And this is from MassivelyOP.com. Defiance and Defiance 2050 are both kicking off Armistice Day festivities. It goes on to read, if you have to give both Defiance 2050 and the original Defiance credit, since they both are living up to their names, fair enough. That's very true. Players will be able to take part in a variety of different Arcfall events. And if I'm not mistaken, Arcfall events are very similar to like the Rift system they have in the MMORPG Rift, I believe. It's been years since I played these games, so I can't really remember. And also take out specialized enemies to earn caches containing the potential for special loot. And that wraps it up for today's MMO and RPG News Roundup. I do appreciate if you made it with me so far, because the watch time does help with the algorithms. And yeah, I know there's a lot of uncertainty going on, but I do hope that you guys continue to hold down the fort and just continue doing things a day at a time. But with that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.